So these are the movies I watched in June of 2024. The first movie was The Fall Guy, which I saw in the cinema. This movie was pretty fun. It was just a pretty fun, cheesy action film. Um, I did feel it went on a bit too long. You know, when you're in a cinema and you're kind of wanting the movie to be over, that's never a great sign. It's no masterpiece, but it is a fun action flick, so you'll have fun with it, I'm sure. Then we have Back to the Future Part 3. I love this movie. It's a great western. It's my second favorite, just below the first Back to the Future in terms of my second favorite Back to the Future film. It's got a lot of great character stuff with Doc Brown's character. Really just develops his character, and yeah, this movie's really good. Then we have Groundhog Day. This is one of my favorite movies, to be honest. It's just a lot of fun. The whole concept of the time loop is really enjoyable, and it's got a lot of great characters and moments, and yeah, I feel like it's underrated, but I think the term underrated is overused, so I won't say underrated, but it's definitely a lot of fun. Then we have Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Now, the original 1968 Planet of the Apes film is one of my favorite films also, and I went into this watching because I was preparing to watch Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and I didn't think I'd seen this movie before, but I'd definitely seen this whole movie before. And it's a really good start to the modern Planet of the Apes trilogy, and yeah, it's not quite as good as the next movie though, which is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. This is definitely my favorite from the modern trilogy. It's just got a lot of great stuff. I don't know what else I can say. You got to see this trilogy. And then we have War for the Planet of the Apes. This was a bit of a fall off from Dawn. I enjoyed it, but I felt it needed more human characters. It kind of like I get the apes are the central characters of the whole trilogy, but it's felt that there wasn't really a great human character to connect to. I mean, you had the little girl, and then you had the human villain. Sorry, I forget the actor's name. Um, but yeah, I just felt it could have been grounded more in some human characters. And then so I watched those three movies in about 2 days to prepare for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and I was pretty let down by this. As you can see, I rated it two and a half stars. It felt I don't even remember how long the movie was, but it felt too long for its own good. Yeah, I enjoyed aspects of it. I appreciated certain references to the original 1968 film, but there was a lot here, but not enough to really justify its own existence. It just feels like it's continuing the Planet of the Apes trilogy for the sake of it. The characters, Noah and Anaya, and the movie didn't really make me care about those characters. And then we have the whole thing at the end with the humans, and I just don't know where it's leading. I mean, obviously, it's leading to another whole trilogy of these films. But it seemed to me as if they were trying to make it make sense with the original 1968 film. And if that's the case, then what's the point? Because we all know the humans aren't around by then. So how are we supposed to root for the humans surviving? Anyway, yeah, very disappointed by this film. Then we have The Wolf of Wall Street. This was actually my first time watching it. I'd seen about two thirds of it like 2 years ago. Never finished it. Don't know why, because this film is really good. I mean, just look at that poster. It's a lot of fun. It's outrageous, but I feel like most people have seen this movie, so they know what I'm talking about. It's it's Martin Scorsese and Leo DiCaprio. I mean, you're not going to be disappointed really with that combo. Then we have The Martian. This is a film I've seen many, many times. One of my favorite films. I know a lot of people maybe think it's overrated or whatever, but it's just a great. It's one of Ridley Scott's best 21st century films, at least, because he's been a bit up and down recently, but this is one of my favorite Ridley Scott films. Matt Damon's great in this. The whole film just, yeah, it's great. I watched the extended cut. It honestly, I prefer the pacing of the theatrical cut, but if you've seen this film a few times, I'd definitely check out the extended. Then we have The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. This was the first time I'd seen this, and I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed this. This was really fun. Really fun. I don't have much to say about it. It was a blast. I love the concept of just Nicolas Cage playing himself, and I mean there was some weaker acting moments from some of the side characters, but Pedro Pascal and Nicolas Cage were great in this movie. It was really, really fun. Then we have Ferrari, and I gave this 4.5. I really enjoyed this. Michael Mann's most recent film. Adam Driver is amazing in this. This was, yeah. I've heard a lot of mixed stuff on this as well. Some people, not loving it, but I definitely loved it. Penelope Cruz was amazing also, and it was I didn't know much of the context around the historical stuff around Ferrari or who Ferrari was or as a person, but so I can't speak to how accurate this movie portrays him and his personal life. But this was a surprisingly powerful movie. I didn't really know too much about it when I went into watching it, but yeah, this was a great movie. Then we have Copyright Criminals. This is a documentary I watched in class, basically about hip hop artists sampling other music and the trouble around the copyright aspects of doing that. Not too much to say here. It was a pretty interesting documentary, but then we have The Nice Guys, and I was disappointed by this. I went into it again, this was the first time I saw it. I went into it not having any idea what it was about. It was a blind watch. I'd heard of it, but I didn't really know. Just thought it'd be a fun kind of buddy cop kind of thing. And it was, to an extent, and I don't know quite what it was about this movie that I didn't like. I mean, I gave it 3 stars. Like, it was fine. It's just kind of the one where I don't think I'd ever watch it again. And if I get that feeling from a movie, then I can't give it any higher than 3 stars, really. I don't dislike Ryan Gosling, but something about him in this film didn't work for me. Russell Crowe was okay. But yeah, I don't know what it is about this movie, but it wasn't amazing. Then we have A Fistful of Dollars, and this was the second time I'd seen this. I'd seen it many years ago. And I gave it 4 stars, but this I think in my review I described this film as a far from perfect film that makes you feel as though it's perfect or something like that. And it has a lot of charm to it. It was basically the first spaghetti western, and the Dollars trilogy, or the Man with No Name trilogy, gets only better from here. So it's a solid start. Then we have Hunt for the Wilder People. This is a great New Zealand film. One of the best New Zealand films, and this was the first time I'd seen the whole thing. I'd seen maybe half of the last third of it about 5 years ago, And I don't know how I've never seen this before, but I was very surprised at how good this was. I mean, I've seen other films of Taika Waititi's, like Boy and Jojo Rabbit, obviously, but yeah, this was a lot of fun. But I wonder how people who aren't New Zealanders, if they get enjoyment from this film, because I feel like you'd need to know a lot of the context around New Zealand culture to kind of understand it. But as a New Zealander, I love this movie. Then we have a 4-minute short film called Big Take. This was really cool. This was shot on 16mm and it looks amazing. The sound design is amazing. It's a nice, simple short film, and it's exactly what a short film should be. It's 4 minutes. Go watch it. It's on YouTube. Then we got For a Few Dollars More, and I'd also seen this several years ago, like A Fistful of Dollars. And I remember not liking it as much, and I never got around to The Good, Bad, and the Ugly, because I think I watched this when I was like 12, maybe. And boy, was I wrong. For me, this is much better than A Fistful of Dollars. And yeah, I really love this film. Not too much to say, because the next movie is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And this movie, by far, I mean, I'm not breaking any ground by saying this, by far the best of the Dollars trilogy. This is almost, I think it's about 3 hours, but it's an amazing film. One of the best Westerns. Still not my favourite Western. My favourite Western is still Unforgiven. But this might be my second favourite. Actually, no. This is my third favourite. I gotta go Unforgiven, Rio Bravo, and then The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. But I've still got a lot of Westerns to see. I recently today I bought a John Wayne 5-movie collection, so I'll be watching a bunch more Westerns. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. This was not just fun, but I would say it's a masterpiece. I didn't quite give it 5 stars. Not sure why. Might have to rewatch it, but very close to 5 stars, definitely. Then we have THX 1138. Now, this is something I've, for some reason, put off watching. It's George Lucas's first film, and his next 2 films, American Graffiti and Star Wars, are in my top 4. So I'm not sure why it took me so long to see this. Like, I've owned it on Blu-ray for probably almost a year. But yeah, it took me this long to get around to it. And I'd always just assumed that, I would love it, but I didn't love it. There were a lot of great moments in it and aspects of it that were great. Don't get me wrong. But overall, the film, it felt like it was more of a concept than a movie. There were a lot of things wrong with it. Not wrong, but a lot of things that just, to me, watching it in 2024, I don't know what, anyway, it just felt underbaked. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the vision behind it, but you can kind of tell it's his first film. Then we have the short film that George Lucas made, which he turned into THX 1138. This is Electronic Labyrinth, THX 1138 4EB. This is about 15 minutes. I watched it on the bonus features of the Blu-ray after I watched the film, and I don't have much to say about it. It's got cool sound design. It's a short student film from 1967, so don't feel like you have to watch it. Then we have Alien. This was the first time I saw Alien, and wow, Ridley Scott, amazing, great film. I haven't seen any of the other Alien films, not even Aliens by James Cameron. I'll have to get around to that now that I've seen this. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's terrifying. Like, it's not scary, or at least it's not very scary, but I mean, for me, that wasn't the point of the film. I just loved this film. And you know when you just watch a movie and you just love it, but you can't really say why exactly. You just had a blast. You just got to go see it. I mean, yeah. And I'm sure most of you have seen this, but great film. Then we have Garfield. Oof. 2 stars is generous. I'll just say that. Saw this in the theaters. It was just generic Chris Pratt voiced animated film. He's done so many animated films. I mean, what? He's Mario, he's the Lego Movie. But this was just the worst of all those, I think. It was just so the generic heist, and then the generic dad character who's come back, and it was just not for me. And I'm sure there are lots of kids who will now be fans of Garfield because they've seen this movie, and good for them. But yeah, this was just schlock. This was schlock. Escape from New York, wasn't a big fan. First time seeing it, I'd heard great things about it, to be honest, but I wasn't a great fan. I wasn't a big fan. I'll just say that. I love The Thing, and that's John Carpenter and Kurt Russell. But this, the whole concept is good. It's kind of like THX 138 in that sense, that I really like the concept, and I think a good film could have been made out of it, but it just falls short in its execution. It's, yeah. And I don't know if a tighter edit would have saved it, or, yeah, there's just something about this that, I, if this is Escape from New York, then what's Escape from LA? Because I've heard bad things about Escape from LA, so, you know. I'm scared to find out what Escape from LA is, if this is Escape from New York. Anyway, now we've got JFK. 4 stars I rated this. This was the first time watch. I really enjoyed this, and I'm not going to speak at all about if anything in this film is accurate to anything about a conspiracy, about JFK's assassination, because there's a lot of stuff out there. But I think we can just disregard all of that stuff when talking about the film, when I'm reviewing the film, because I just think that this film, regardless of that, was really well made, really engaging, and I know that, and I feel like it felt like it was trying to convince me, which had me kind of going throughout the film like I was conflicted on this film while watching it, because at parts it did feel like it was trying to convince me that there was a second shooter and that there was a big conspiracy. But I think by the end I just appreciated it as a story of Kevin Costner's character. Sorry, I forget the name of whoever he is, but of the guy in doing the investigation, and it was about 3 hours, I think, and I feel like this is something I need to rewatch to truly reevaluate. But I gave it 4 stars, so I enjoyed it. And the last two, we've got a Western, High Plains Drifter, Clint Eastwood. 3.5 stars. I think this is Clint Eastwood's second film he directed, and the first one he directed and starred in, if I'm not mistaken. And this was an interesting film. I mean, Clint Eastwood's character in this film is basically the devil. I mean, he comes into this town and he rapes and murders and whatnot. And by the end, he basically destroys it and burns it down. And yeah, it's a film that I think is disguised as a Western, but is really kind of just it makes you think. It has one of those endings just like 2001 that when you get to the end, you're just thinking about the end and really trying to think, what the hell was this movie about? And I think that's great, but obviously this in a less profound way, I guess, than 2001, obviously, but like I wouldn't describe this movie as fun. I would describe it as interesting and slightly disturbing, but yeah, they got a 3.5 from me. And the last movie of June 2024 was another Western, 310 to Yuma, the 2007 remake. I've not seen the original film. I think the original's from the 40s or 50s. I will get around to it eventually, hopefully, but I didn't love this film. I mean, I gave it a 3.5. It's not that I disliked it. I just didn't love it. It was pretty good for a modern Western. Like it was a pretty good attempt, I guess you could say, at a Western. This was James Mangold film. He's he's pretty consistent, I feel. Um, yeah, I don't have much to say about this one. It was fine as a Western, but I'd rather just go back to the 50s and 60s and watch those Westerns, and just, I mean, after Unforgiven, which is my fourth favorite film, it's definitely hard to live up to Unforgiven, and seeming as I'd watched The Good and Bad and the Ugly and the whole Dolls trilogy this month, it was going to be difficult for 310 to Yuma to wow me. But those were the films I watched in June.